Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten, and I want you to take a moment and be sure to hit subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. Today, we are kicking off a brand new segment to the show. I'm thinking of calling it Freaky Friday or Fetish Friday. I'm not totally sold yet, but basically, Friday, we will be diving into kinks, fetishes, and sexual practices that push the boundaries and expand your sexual horizons. Because let's be real, exploring the edges of sexuality can be incredibly rewarding, even if you decide that a certain practice isn't for you. Knowing what is a no for you is just as important as knowing what is a yes. Now, before we dive into today's topic, let's first talk about fetishes for a moment. Why are humans so beautifully diverse in what turns us on? From a psychological perspective, fetishes often develop through experiences that pair sexual arousal with non-sexual objects or activities. Our brains are incredible at creating these connections, especially during our formative years. What's fascinating is that fetishes can serve different purposes for different people. For some, they provide a psychological escape from the pressures and responsibilities and reality of everyday life. For others, they enhance intimacy by requiring deep trust and vulnerability. And for many, they simply add novelty and excitement to sexual experiences that might otherwise become mundane or routine. The key thing to understand about fetishes is that they're perfectly normal variations of human sexuality. As long as they involve consenting adults and don't cause genuine distress or harm, they're healthy expressions of our complex sexual psyches. Whether you have many fetishes, just a few, or none at all, your sexual preferences are so valid. For today's inaugural Freaky Friday, Fetish Friday, we are talking about snowballing. Now, you might your mind might have gone straight to thinking about throwing packed snow around in the winter while you're building a snowman. I hate to break it to you, but we're venturing into a much different territory today. This is one of those sexual practices that rarely is discussed in the open, but has been referenced in everything from mainstream movies to adult entertainment. It's a practice that sits really at the interface of taboo, intimacy, and power. And that combination makes it fascinating to explore from both a psychological and a physiological perspective. Snowballing tends to be one of those topics that gets whispered about rather than openly discussed. So if you've never heard of it, or if you're curious about the appeal, you're definitely not alone. Get comfortable because we're about to break down everything you need to know about this provocative practice. Let's get some. Spring cleaning isn't just for your apartment. Guys, it's time to hit reset on your personal grooming routine too. Manscaped's Beard and Balls bundle has you covered from cheek to cheeks to make sure you're presenting your best self. Join over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use code NAKED20 for 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Complete confidence starts with complete grooming. The Beard Hedger is going to keep your facial hair perfectly manicured, while the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra takes care of business down there. Because let's be real, when things are heating up, the last thing you want her thinking about is how she's going to navigate your wild undergrowth. Skincare technology means these tools are designed to minimize nicks and irritations in your most sensitive areas because nobody wants to explain those kind of battle scars when the clothes are coming off. Don't leave your intimate encounters to chance. Upgrade to the Beard and Balls bundle from Manscaped by visiting manscaped.com and use code NAKED20 to get 20% off plus free shipping. Take control of your grooming game, guys. She's going to notice the difference. So, what exactly is snowballing? It is when one partner transfers semen from their mouth to another partner's mouth, typically after oral sex. Often it's exchanged in a back and forth makeout session that involves this semen swapping. The act is considered taboo, inherently kinky, and really can create a profound sense of connection and intimacy between the two partners. For some couples, it's playful and erotically thrilling in ways that more conventional sexual acts might be. Now that you know what it is, let's explore why some people enjoy snowballing and how to approach it if you're interested in giving it a try. First up is the intimacy factor. So, snowballing can feel incredibly intimate because it involves a deep level of trust. There is a willingness to share something intensely personal, and that vulnerability can be incredibly bonding. This isn't your everyday sexual activity, and it requires a real openness with your partner. Second, there's the taboo element of it. For many, this feels forbidden outside of everyday sexual norms, which really adds a layer of excitement and thrill. And we know from the science of arousal that taboo and really transgression can be immensely arousing for both men and women. Third, there's an interesting power dynamic at play. Snowballing can be incorporated into a dom sub dynamic where one person takes control of the experience. And this can be particularly exciting if you're exploring power exchange in your relationship. Think about it. There's something very dominant about giving this experience to your partner, and there's something very submissive about receiving it. And fourth, there's this enhanced connection that occurs. This act can really strengthen those bonds, like those bonds between partners because you're engaging in something edgy together. You're crossing a boundary as a team, which often creates a sense of us against the world that can be incredibly unifying as a couple or as a pair. And finally, there's this shared sensory experience. Both partners are literally tasting the same thing, having the same physical sensation at the same time. That simultaneously can be incredibly connecting. You're both in the exact same experience, which doesn't happen that often in sex if you really think about it. Typically, one partner is giving while the other is receiving. And so, this combination at the exact same time of sharing in this experience is a little bit different than a typical moment might be. Now, let's talk about how to experiment with snowballing safely if you're interested. So, if you're thinking, this is something that I'm curious about, checking in with yourself first, too, and noticing as we've been talking about snowballing, am I stepping into this or am I pushing it away? And maybe even if you're pushing it away, asking yourself, what is the resistance? What are the things that are coming up in me? Not necessarily right or wrong, just noticing what's here for you right now, because that's going to be information as well to help you figure out what it is that you're really excited to try and explore and what you aren't. All right. First and foremost, communication. Always discuss this openly with your partner beforehand because while spontaneity for sure has a place in your sex life, introducing something this novel deserves a proper conversation beforehand. Talk about your curiosity, talk about any concerns, and really exploring in dialogue why you're interested in trying this out. Getting on the same page with your partner or partners about this before trying something new is really the best approach. Secondly, Start small. If you're not sure if this is going to be your thing, begin with just a small amount. Gauge each other's reactions and see if this is something that you want to explore further or if just the initial experience was enough for you. You don't need to go all in right away, sharing it all with each other in that one moment. You can try just a little. It's almost like being at an ice cream shop when you haven't decided yet if you're going to purchase a whole scoop of the mint chocolate chip or maybe just trying that little sample, that little spoon of sample size before you commit fully. Or maybe you're deciding, I actually don't want ice cream. No thanks. Third, you really want to prioritize hygiene because both oral hygiene and overall body hygiene are going to be important here. And this is definitely why this is one of those things as well that you really want to communicate about beforehand. And yes, what you eat absolutely affects the taste of your semen. While that pineapple juice myth does potentially have some truth to it, overall hydration and a balanced diet are the real keys to improving the taste here. You want to avoid things like cigarettes, like alcohol, maybe excessive red meat. It can really make a big difference too. And then fourth, establishing some safety signals. This is something that involves your mouth, so verbal safe words are not really going to work here. I would recommend having a specific gesture, maybe tapping on your partner's arm or shoulder twice, and that can signal that you need to pause or stop. This gesture should be really clear and instantly recognizable. So practice it beforehand so that you both know exactly what to look for in the moment. Next, you want to create a relaxed environment. So try this in a setting where you feel completely comfortable and at ease and are not rushed. You want to be aroused, but you want to also be really grounded in your body. The more relaxed you are, the easier it will be to enjoy the experience. And finally, don't skip that aftercare. After you've finished, take some time to check in with each other about how you feel. Aftercare could look like cuddling, it could look about talking what you enjoyed or discussing what you might do different next time. This really reinforces your connection and it helps you both process what can potentially be an intense experience. One thing I want to add that we don't talk about enough is the psychological arousal factor here. For many men, there's something incredibly hot about a partner who's willing to engage with their semen in this way. It speaks to a level of acceptance of your body and your sexuality that can be profoundly validating. And for many women, there's a thrill in challenging conventional expectations around what might be considered proper sexuality. I've also found that couples who are willing to try activities like this often report having more satisfying sex lives overall. Not because of the specific act itself, but because of the communication, the trust, and the willingness to experiment that it represents. No, I'm not saying couples that engage in snowballing or automatically have more fulfilling sex lives. I'm speaking broadly here and saying that by having this communication, this trust, this openness, this experimentation and exploration present in whatever way that means to you is what invites in a more fulfilling sex life. And remember that with any sexual exploration, you want to keep communication open and approach everything with curiosity and consent. Snowballing might be a fun and rewarding addition to your sexual repertoire, or it might be something that you try once just for the experience and decide it's not for you. Either way, what matters most is that you and your partner or partners are connecting in ways that feel good for both of you. And also know, just because your partner might have been open to doing one night doesn't automatically assume that the next time you're intimate together, it's an automatic yes. So, keeping those lines of communication open and knowing what is and is not available on the menu for that particular experience. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. If you have other topics or taboos or kinks that you would like me to cover or are curious about and want to learn more about, please submit that to me at thenakedconnection.com/question. And don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss a single episode. This is Kirsten, and until next time, let's get some. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and the show. Until next time, happy connecting.